While the NASCAR K&N Pro Series has been road racing this season, it hasn't been to Watkins Glen. The Glen is bigger. The Glen is faster. It's a track any driver in the K&N Pro Series East would love to master. Today, Will Rogers goes for 5 in a row in his 7 car. Teammates try to avoid their New Jersey disaster. Hey, the champ is back on track. And a number of drivers see the Glen for the very first time. Those are just some of the storylines we'll be covering as we welcome you to Watkins Glen International for the Great Outdoors RV Superstore 100. I'm Dave Burns, along with Parker Kligerman, and Dylan Welch will join us in a moment. And Parker, welcome back to the Glen. You got to race here once, but that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite racetracks we go to, so I'm so excited to be back and excited to watch these K&N East cars go around here. This is one of the fastest road courses in America, so it's a lot of fun.
And from the sky, you look down and see that Watkins Glen isn't that far from Syracuse, about 95 miles. And the way that NASCAR configures it, they leave out a portion called the boot. That makes it a 2.45-mile road course. Here are the East Series points after 10 of 14 races, Parker. Looks like a two-man show.
And Tyler Ankrum has really led that show. 4 wins this season. Tyler Dipple's really going to have to up his game if he wants to beat that 17 car.
So, my friend, you talked about how much you like this place. Kind of take us for a virtual tour.
Yeah, so it starts in turn 1, which is a hard braking zone. Then you head up in the S's where you see the cars now. That's one of the fastest sections around this road course. Whereas you crest the top where they are right now, you're going to shift to high gear and approach 160 miles an hour in these K&N East cars. So it is an incredibly fast racetrack.
24 cars will start today's event. Dylan Welch, who have you got your eye on?
Dave, somebody to watch in the field today is Brett Moffitt, who is starting 21st, driving for Shiggy Hattori Racing Enterprises. Of course, this car that Brett is in almost won this race last year, dominated the early part of the race with Ryan Truex behind the wheel. Brett was fastest in practice earlier today. Now, the track conditions were a little bit different this morning. It had some wet weather in the area. The track was a little bit wet, but it's encouraging that they showed speed in that race car. He's going to have his work cut out for him as well, coming from towards the back, but the car can get it done, and Brett has shown a lot of speed so far today, so he's going to be one to keep your eye on.
Dylan, thanks. And the weather has been a story. NASCAR decided to put these cars on track with wet weather tires earlier today for their only practice. They all went out, they got some laps in the wet, but because that was so unrealistic in terms of normal speeds for these cars, they didn't set the field by practice time. Series Director Chris Wright told me, we go back to the point system when we do something like this. And so the cars from front to back are lined up by owner's points. That means that technically the pole went to Tyler Ankrum with Tyler Dipple to his side. The teammates, Tyler and Tyler, leading the championship. They'll lead the field to green at Watkins Glen. Nice clean start, but what now, Parker?
Yeah, you see them all fan out in the back. You see Brett Moffitt in the one car there, all the way on the inside, trying to make it 3 wide. This is what happens when you put some of those fast cars way in the back of the field.
And that's right. If you saw the starting lineup there were some Monster Energy Series Cup drivers in there, Camping World Truck Series drivers in the back of the field because they are on teams that don't run the full season, and they'll be making their way forward. Eric Jones in the field, Bubba Wallace in the field, Noah Gragson. It'll be fun to watch.
Bubba just got real loose there out of turn 4 out of the S's. Now they head down the inner loop. This is where you got to get single file right here. It's very hard to run side by side, and if you're the car on the outside, you see Bubba make a great pass right there in that Sunoco 27 car. It's a tough place to be side by side because it gets so tight.
See the black 98 car, that is Noah Gragson. I think he was the car that went very wide on that first turn, brought it back in.
And he did the same there in the carousel, just trying to drive around some of these cars towards the back. That was the rain line we saw in practice earlier today from these drivers, but that's not going to work here in the dry. You're going to want to be right on the yellow line down through the carousel.
Ronnie Bassett Jr. in the white 04 car, 3rd in the championship, so he got to start 3rd under heavy pressure now from Ruben Garcia Jr.
And the Tyler and Tyler show has bolted away from these two, so they're not quite showing the speed of the Tylers up front. And it seems when you look at the cars behind Ronnie Bassett Jr. as they start to train up behind him. Oh, they're 3 wide again down to turn 1. That's Eric Jones in the 20, Noah Gragson in the 98. You're going to see cars train up behind their car. That means he's holding them up. It's just like a short track. If a car's holding them up, eventually he's going to have to either get past or probably get moved out of the way.
See See Jones in the yellow 20 up through the S's, that 31 in front of him, Scott Heckert, driving for Ted Marsh this weekend. Challenge for the lead, no. Ankrum keeps it.
That's a tough place to make a pass because it's one of those places that, although we brake really hard and we slow the cars down from the highest rate of speed we're doing at any point of the racetrack, you still don't really slow up the car as much as they are going to slow it up as they head down to turn 6. Side by side again for the lead.
See if he can get him this time, and he will on the outside. Dipple to the front.
To me, that was a smart move by Tyler Ankrum. Felt like maybe Dipple's a little faster at this point of the race. Early on, the track's just coming to. It's still wet in a couple places. Just let him lead, maybe learn a couple things from him. Don't abuse your equipment, and hopefully make another run at it later in the race.
Dipple with a little bit more experience here. This is his 3rd run at Watkins Glen, as now Ankrum in his first start here peeks to the inside. And around.
Oh no!
Almost around is Dipple, and then contact.
So erase everything I just said about taking it easy. Obviously, that was not the case. Wow, that, and for Dipple, I feel like, some of that's just his track. It was so wet earlier today, and it's so wet in some certain places, maybe.
Dylan.
But guys, they're telling Tyler Dipple not to worry, that they're taking a look at that hole in the right front, but right now they're saying it's nothing to worry about, just telling him to run his race.
What do you think, Parker? What's right there behind and in that front of that 54?
I mean, you're going to tell him that because as long as it's not rubbing that tire. But let's look at this again. Here we got the replay. He's wide, and you do that in that corner. You do enter high, but he's a little high out of the groove. And I think, right there, it's just the track doesn't have the grip up there that maybe it would have had if they had run in the dry all day. Being wet early in their day and not having the Xfinity cars really get out there and lay down rubber. There just wasn't the grip that high in turn 1, and so he just lost the rear.
And as we already said, the field lined up by points, so some very fast cars, including everyone that's ganging up on Ryan Vargas in the 2 right now, started in the rear.
This is like a sad gazelle in the Serengeti game, taken down by a bunch of lions there with Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, Brett Moffitt, guys who have won in the top 3 series of NASCAR. That's a tough place to be, but an awesome place to be because you might learn here. We got to battle for the lead.
Back up front, here comes Garcia, trying to get around Ankrum.
That's a tough place to be side by side. Good job by Ankrum there to hold it tight off of turn 3 into turn 4. But that's a great pass. Side by side down there, but now he makes the pass. Awesome.
Yeah, you've got to trust each other there, don't you?
You really do. I mean, that's where you can so easily just lose the car. It's one of the fastest corners around here, and then you get all the way upwards to 160 miles an hour as they go in that braking zone in the inner loop. So you're dealing with a lot of issues in terms of if that car's going to have the aero grip, does it have the mechanical grip, all those things that you're fighting as a race car driver. Oh, 3 wide again.
This group is crazy right now. Will Rogers got through in the green and white 7, and now there's a whole gang behind him.
And as I look at that 04 car, it's moving around. It's really soft. I have to think that team may have left a little bit of a wet setup in that car. That's the kind of setup you would want if this racetrack was wet. You'd want that car to be soft and compliant and make grip, but that does not work in the dry. As you see it really roll over and move around, that tells me that team maybe was trying to make a gamble on a wet weather race.
More side-by-side action coming down into turn number 1. Late move there by Spencer Davis. Is that going to work?
Oh!
No, not for Brett Moffitt. He's into Moffitt, and Moffitt spins.
And you saw Spencer Davis lost the rear there, probably a little bit of wheel hop or just getting the rears locked up a little bit. It's so easy to do in a turn 1. The unfortunate recipient, Brett Moffitt there, who has a little bit of left front damage now, kind of in the same situation as Tyler Dipple. Team is going to have to assess that and see if that's really going to hurt them or not.
And the caution has come out not for this action, but for Juan Manuel Gonzalez right there, who's already had a tough weekend. Their hauler driver got stuck in a ditch before he got into Watkins Glen International. They had to get a crane, wrecker crane truck, something big enough to get a 18-wheeler out of the ditch, and they got to the track late. And then he had a practice crash, and now this, stopped on the racetrack. Here's Davis's move. Too late, Parker?
It's late, and you see there, right there, the rear end starts to come out. That tells me he's overcooked the corner 1, then he tries to make up for it, locks the rears or gets a bit of wheel hop. And as I said, the unfortunate recipient there is Brett Moffitt, who was minding his own business on the bottom.
So Davis rolls on. Moffitt has damage, and Juan Manuel Gonzalez is going to get pushed to the garage as the first caution has come out here at Watkins Glen. K&N Pro Series Racing on NBCSN is brought to you by K&N High Flow Air Filters and Air Intake Systems, because everyone loves that fast car smell. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International, the Great Outdoors RV Superstore 100, ready to resume after the first caution of the day for the 25 car stopped on track. The new leader, Ruben Garcia Jr., he's the car to the left. He'll get the green flag. Tyler Ankrum, 17. He'll try to keep up on the outside, but watch out. Here comes Will Rogers in the 7. And everybody else.
Yeah, 3 wide again. Oh, man. Harrison Burton there all the way on the outside. See Spencer Davis as well out there.
Up through the S's. The NBCSN Bat Cam taking you up through there. What a great view.
What an awesome shot.
Yeah.
It really gives you appreciation for the speed those cars are carrying up through there.
All right, now they spread out a little bit, but look back here. That's the 4 of Chase Cabry, the red and white car, getting a challenge from Spencer Davis and Noah Gregson.
Oh, Gregson's getting that car moving around, wiggling a little bit as he makes the pass.
Here comes Eric Jones. He'd like second.
That he would. And Will Rogers, we know how good he is on the road courses. Right on the tail of Garcia.
Coming to the outside, can he make that work? Garcia's got the preferred line, but now Rogers will have it in the final of 7 turns.
And I think Garcia really didn't have the pace to hold him off there. Oh, he gets sideways, so easy to do in turn 7. Eric Jones goes to the bottom. Now they're drag racing down to turn 1. Eric's trying to get a little bit away from the side draft, and I believe he'll most likely be able to outbrake him here down into turn 1.
Pretty tight. Jones to the inside is going to take it. Garcia grabbing a lot of wheel there.
Gets a little wide. He did the same thing that we saw Dipple do, but he held on to it a little bit, and I just think that track is cleaning up a little bit more. There's a little bit more grip to be able to do that now. Bubba Wallace right on the back here of Tyler Ankrum.
That's right.
He's going to get a good run off of turn 4, and can he pop out here and make the pass to the inner loop?
And boy, aren't we glad Bubba's here to race this weekend. Last weekend at Pocono, had that horrific crash into the turn 1 wall. Talked to him this afternoon. He said, I'm feeling pretty good, no problems at all, and I think I can shift and use the gas and do everything I need to in this 27 car.
No doubt, it's great to see him here. I'm glad he's also running all these races. Oh,
Van Wieringen wide in the 30, yep.
Yeah, way out there. But I was going to say also, Ankrum made the pass easy on Bubba Wallace. He went way wide down the inner loop, so Bubba was able to drive right on by.
Battle for 8th back here. Cabry's red and white number 4. And then Spencer Davis, who had a little contact earlier, but was none the worse for it. Davis will get the spot, yeah.
Yeah, and you have the interested bystander there of Harrison Burton. Wow, here comes Eric Jones for the lead on Will Rogers.
He's going to try to take it. Rogers has won 4 road course races in a row in the K&N Pro Series, but he's got a serious challenge this afternoon.
And that is impressive to hold off Eric Jones around the outside, be able to get the power down on that curb on the outside turn 1. It's so easy to spin the tires there. That curb does not have a lot of grip, and look at the gap he puts on Eric through the S's right now.
You might be asking, what's Eric Jones doing here? Same thing he did at Sonoma before that race. He raced in the K&N Pro Series race. Whoa! Locking him up as Rogers. And through the bus stop goes, I think that's the 6 of Garcia.
Yeah, it is. And you're going to have to come to a complete stop here, and then you're able to continue going per NASCAR rules.
Oh, that was an exciting half lap. And now Jones looks for a way by Rogers again.
As you guys know, Will Rogers is a very accomplished road racer here as he tries to fend off Eric Jones. Will has won the last 4 K&N Pro Series road course races and obviously comes into today with a lot of confidence, but despite his success on the road courses, doesn't want to get complacent. He was talking to Andy Lally this morning, who of course is a multi-time Grand Am sports car champion, has won the Daytona 24-hour race multiple times, one of the best sports car racers there is, and he was offering Will some advice just on what to do, when to make your move, told him to be patient. Will was pretty aggressive driving through the field, but he's in a great battle now for this top spot.
That's great stuff, Dylan, because I love to hear that, Dave, that you have a young driver who we feel is probably the top road racer at this level, and has shown that for the last little bit. Here's Eric Jones to make another dive down in the inner loop on Will Rogers.
It's going to get him this time. Rogers has to give way. Strong move by Eric Jones.
Very strong.
New leader at Watkins Glen, it's Monster Energy Series Cup driver Eric Jones.
Hey, I'm Will Rogers, 23 years old from Maui, Hawaii, and I race in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. I got my start in racing when I was 8 years old on the island of Maui at the time, and slowly progressed to motocross, off-road racing, sports cars, and now stock cars in the K&N Pro Series. Yeah, I got a few wins in the K&N East Series last year, which was great, and got the attention from a guy like Kevin Harvick. It always helps when you have a Cup Series champion on your side and kind of teaching you the ropes and telling you what to do and what not to do. Obviously earn respect from guys like Kevin, and definitely things I'm going to take to the next level if and when I can. I'm Will Rogers, and that's your NASCAR Next Gen profile.
He won here last year, then he won at New Jersey last year. They were in reverse order last year. And then New Jersey this year, and also Sonoma. So east-west, it doesn't matter to Will Rogers. He wins in the K&N Pro Series when they're on the road course.
He does. He's very impressive. And, you know, we heard that report from Dylan earlier in the race about how he's been talking to Andy Lally and trying to get better. I just love to hear a young driver who we feel like is already at the top of his game at the road course, but is still searching to be better, still trying to find ways that he can improve. That's what you want to see, because that means he's going to take that work ethic through everything he does moving up to the ranks.
And you drivers are smart like that. His teammate,
sometimes.
Well, you need to be, right? His teammate
Yes.
this weekend is Bubba Wallace, and when I was talking to Will in the garage area, well, there was Bubba, and he was getting advice from Will. And Will's already told me, I'm hearing squealing tires. That's not good. Tristan Van Wieringen is around in the 30. And others trying to avoid. Nice move by Garcia.
That was an awesome slide and avoidance by Ruben Garcia Jr. Awesome. This is a really precarious position to be in because it's kind of blind. You have spotters that are up top of the grandstands right there that will be able to see this, but for the drivers coming around that corner, you can't see till you come around the other side.
They waited for a moment, but then decided they better throw the caution here for the spun car of Tristan Van Wieringen. And if you looked at the top of the picture there, you could see the brake hose that had come out of the 30 car there. So debris on the track in the final corner, which wasn't good either. And now they've told us that they're actually going to use this as the brake, Parker. Would it be on or around lap 20, halfway? But here at lap 16, they're going to go ahead and take the opportunity to bring the whole field by. And this will be their one opportunity to change tires and add fuel to the cars.
Right, and this is such a pivotal time of the race because this is your one time to make that adjustment you've been searching for, and to relay it to your crew chief that this is exactly what you need to go and try and win this race. So it's a pivotal time for every one of these drivers and teams.
So do you think Eric Jones has exactly what he needs already?
He could, I guess. I think that's one of the things that we'll see. If
he went to the front, right?
Yeah, he feels like that car is fine. It's the best it can possibly be. Then he might elect not to do anything at all.
There's Van Wieringen spinning it. Look at that. Davis juking to the left and just getting by. And then we saw Garcia make the same move to the right and avoid contact with the 30 car. So the pace car is collecting the field. And these are not live pit stops. What NASCAR has done with this series to keep costs down, there's no competition on pit road. It's just simply you come in, you make your changes within 5 minutes, and you re-enter the way that you left the track. We'll tell you what happened in the break when we come back. Back in the day at Watkins Glen, the series returned in 1986. They hadn't raced here since 1957. And look at the old school, Parker. That's good stuff.
These are so cool. I'm so excited right now just watching this. Look at Rusty Wallace just wheeling that thing inside there. That 27, I love that. Just digging, steering, and letting the car move around. But he had the issue, right?
Yep, he had problems later in the day. Darrell Waltrip in the 11 couldn't get to the front either, but Tim Richmond could in that 25 car. Here he is coming to the checkers, Parker. Look at that showmanship.
What a legend. Hand out the window, drops the tire off, slides into the checker flag. Oh, man, that's what everyone loved about Tim Richmond. He was definitely created a great show.
He left us too early, but he put on a show that day when NASCAR returned to the Glen. Okay, follow me here. This is really weird. There was a rules violation. You needed to come to pit road right there. The first two cars, the black 98 of Gregson and the yellow 20 of Jones, did not. They remained first and second on the track, but they did not come down pit road. And unfortunately, what we're hearing from NASCAR now is that they're not going to be able to, without penalty, get their fuel to make it to the end of the race. Be able to, without penalty, get their fuel to make it to the end of the race. Now, there was, in the driver's meeting, this question came up. Hey, can we use a traditional pit window and just stop when we want to? And the answer for those that didn't race in this series normally, no. You can only put fuel in the car during the designated break. And so they didn't do it. And so, Parker, they can only go like 34, 35 laps. And here we are on lap 20. It's a 41-lap race.
And that is just a massive mistake for Eric Jones' team and Noah Gregson's. I mean, this is, you got to know the rules you're racing to. And if you don't follow the rules, then of course you're going to get bit. And that's just so unfortunate because obviously these two have very fast race cars. We see them racing for what they believe is the lead, and it is the lead. But we know that they're not going to be able to go to the finish, and that was the lead, and it is the lead. But we know that they're not going to be able to go to the finish, and that when they do pit, there'll be a penalty.
That's right. It'll be a one-lap penalty for improper fueling. So this is fun, but it won't last.
No, it isn't. So if we really look behind them, that's Will Rogers that's leading this race with Scott Heckert hot on his tail.
Gregson looks. Jones defends way out there. And now here comes Will Rogers. Well, he's just going to do it outright because they're going to pit.
So here comes Eric Jones, who pits from the lead. They were 8 laps short on fuel, so they're going to come down now. Again, they'll have to take a 1-lap penalty because they took on fuel outside of the designated break. So here he is, again, just a little bit short, only 8 laps, so just kind of a splash and go to make sure he can make it all the way to the end. And they'll have to figure out a way to get that 1-lap penalty back as he starts to serve that right now.
Yep, they'll let the field go by, Dylan, and once the field has passed by, just so that the timing and scoring just works kind of without having to fiddle with it, they'll let the whole field go by, yeah.
Exactly, and you saw Eric Jones shaking his head in there. Obviously, he's upset. Felt like he had a chance to win this race, or really looked like one of the best cars to win this race. So that's unfortunate, and now those two may be racing for the wave round at some point, hoping they can get a caution.
And it was about practice today for them, so they're going to get it. Of course, Gregson doesn't race in the Cup Series here over the weekend, but he does have a road course race coming up at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in the Truck Series, so this was a warm-up for him. Meanwhile, the complexion of the race has entirely changed, Parker. Here's the battle for the lead. It's Will Rogers trying to hold off Brett Moffitt in that damaged 1 car.
And that just a little bit ago, we were talking about Brett Moffitt being spun out in turn 1, got that damage on this fender, and now they've taped it up and is fighting for the lead. And we know he led that rain practice earlier today. He was really fast. He looked like one of the best cars in the rain, and then that team obviously did a masterful job of making that car great in the dry, changing basically everything under it, I'm assuming, and getting a great dry setup. And Brett Moffitt's done a great job in this race to get back towards the front.
Stalking now, the driver that has won 4 K&N Pro Series road course races in a row. That's the driver of the green and white 7, Will Rogers, originally from Hawaii. Spent most of his time growing up on the West Coast. A lot of grass on the track there. That's not good.
Somebody's gone and done a bit of mowing for the racetrack there, free of charge, of course.
And that can be a problem because where does it go, Parker?
It gets a little bit on those radiators there, Dave, so that hopefully will not be an overheating problem for these leaders, though.
It's a hot battle up front. Moffitt chasing Rogers. Watkins Glen, New York, a beautiful setting. They used to race in the streets. Now they race on the road course called Watkins Glen International. A tradition now for the K&N Pro Series East for a number of years, and it always provides action. Brett Moffitt got spun early, contact from Spencer Davis. Will Rogers comes from the back of the field to take the lead, and he's being chased by a car that had damage earlier. Parker, look at that tape job on the left front of Moffitt's car, but he's still got lots of speed.
And the important thing to know about his cars, you see those little openings. Those are his brake ducts, those little circles. Those are not covered by that tape. So he's getting all the air to his brakes. He's getting the air to the radiator through the grill opening in the bottom. So all that is fine. And what's really impressive about what he's doing here is he's trailing Will so closely, which can be tough because when you follow a car so closely on a road course like this, you really can heat your brakes up and heat your car and make it a little bit just overwork it in a lot of ways. But when you can sit right behind another car like this and follow him lap after lap, that tells me that car is really strong. Whoa, he's pitting here.
Unscheduled pit stop for the 1 of Moffitt. We've already been through the whole, hey, you can't put on tires, you can't fuel here. So something else is going on with the 1 car. We'll see what they do now as the crew attends to him.
Oh, it's the
that
grass.
Front. Yep, it's what we talked about. The grass can get up and cover up the brake hole openings and the radiator opening, Parker.
That is unfortunate. So I spoke too soon, of course. He was not getting the air to there. Now, it wasn't because of that tape from the damage. It's obviously because of the grass that we saw those guys go through before the break. And you know what? That's just a product of racing a road course like this. It's one of the things you have to deal with, the elements around you and of other cars that go off the racetrack and put that grass on the racetrack, and then suddenly it can clog up your grill and therefore not allow air to your radiator.
You know, I was talking to a spotter earlier about the extra spotters they have around the track at these road courses. And he said one of the things they do is they watch and see where other drivers have gone off track and either put gravel or grass up onto the track, and they warn the driver. It's not just about a clean pass and clearing a driver, but they got to warn them about stuff they don't know is out there.
Well, and sometimes the worst place to be is where he was, which is second, because the car, the leader is going to drive through it, and he's not going to get it thrown up and onto his car. But then when he's in second place right behind the leader, that's throwing, as the leader drives to that grass, it's throwing it all up in the air and on to the grill of Brett Moffitt. So it's just the wrong place at the wrong time, and an unfortunate circumstance to have had that grass there.
You saw Jones and Gregson 1 lap off the pace because of the penalty.
Scott Heckert there in the 31. He also, you see him a little further back from the lead. Wow, Sam Mayer gets a little loose there. Real loose all the way out off the outside of turn 1. You'll see that at times through this race. But Scott Heckert didn't have the issue with getting too much grass on his grill because obviously he was further back and the grass had calmed down by the time he got there.
How about Sam Mayer, the 15-year-old junior motorsports development driver, his first road course race and only his 3rd start in the K&N Pro Series. He's shown very well so far, raced at New Hampshire and Iowa. We've got some big ticket items on his schedule already, Parker.
Yeah, no doubt. That's an impressive schedule for a young man, and to be 15 years old, running here in the top 5 at a K&N East race, beating a guy like Bubba Wallace, I think he has to feel pretty good about that.
There's Bubba in the 27. Jefferson Pitts Racing fielding a car for him this weekend. Talk about the rhythm, Parker, that a driver can get, even in a car that's very different from the one you're going to race on Sunday.
Well, and it's important for Bubba to do this. You know, we noted at Sonoma, I actually raced against him at the Cup Series race at Sonoma, and he really struggled out there. And I think, the road courses have just been a little bit harder for him than he probably expected. And so the team decided, and with himself, to try to find a way to get him an opportunity to run here in the K&N East Series before the Cup Series race this weekend to just get him laps. And, you talk about the rhythm, but the big thing for him is just to do the act of road course racing, which is really nailing the brake, downshifting. Oh, we've got a car blown up here.
And that's Tristan Van Wieringen in the 30. Things just got worse for that young driver.
And that is not what you want to see coming out of the back of one of these race cars.
No, it looks fairly terminal. We don't know, not hearing. Saw a quick shot, too, of Harrison Burton, by the way, in the 12 car. Not running up front right now, and just also heard reported from Dylan that car is very loose. And I don't know, I kind of know what a loose car is like for you guys on an oval, Parker. What's a loose race car like for you on a fast place like Watkins Glen?
Well, it's hard because at this place, when you go off in the corners, you really rely on that rear end. And when you see Will Rogers turn that car down into turn 7 with a huge move of the steering wheel, that's when you rely on that rear tire for grip and stability. And if the car is loose, it just gives you no confidence, and you slow down really quickly. One, this racetrack is really fast, so that not having confidence in a race car is a scary place to be. But then, 2, on a road course like this where you're begging the car to go left and right all the time, you really need confidence in the rear end.
That blue car of Dylan Bassett is a lap down. Dylan, what's up with the 30?
And guys, the update on the 30 of Tristan Van Wieringen didn't blow up. They said he just overheated. So I guess that's some good news that they didn't at least lose a motor, but obviously some major issues for the 30 car.
Yeah, and he didn't oil down the track, so that's good. But now he's come to a complete stop, and that has brought out another caution. The bad news for Will Rogers is that the entire field will now be brought up to the back of the green and white 7, who continues to lead at Watkins Glen. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. Dave Burns, Parker Kligerman, and Dylan Welch enjoying the action here today with you. Will Rogers in the green and white 7 continues to lead, but now he's got a challenge from the 31 of Scott Heckert as they resume the race with just 8 laps to go.
Don't sleep on Scott Heckert. He's won at Watkins Glen twice. He was the Will Rogers of the K&N East Series a couple years ago, winning on the road courses.
Big challenge to the outside through turn 1. Rogers is going to have the advantage, and Bubba Wallace in the 27 tries to hang on to second.
Oh, look at all that speedy dry. That's not smoke you see coming from those cars. They laid that down to get some of the oil off the racetrack. Scott Heckert holds off Bubba Wallace.
Oh, man, the 74 of Austin Hill gets a little wiggly up through the S's as well. They all hang on to it, and now it's down to the bus stop.
Brett Moffitt making a charge back through the field here.
Holy cow.
For the second time this race, or third time maybe.
Got spun, had an overheating issue on the one car, so he's been to the back of the field a couple of times and is racing his way back to the front. Meanwhile, Rogers trying to pull away from Heckert and Wallace.
Yeah, he was able to put a little bit of gap on Heckert there. Heckert looked like he got a good run off the carousel, and you saw Brett Moffitt on the outside through the carousel, going to make that pass on Ruben Garcia Jr.
Nice battle here. He'll have the inside preferred line as they go through the penultimate corner. Garcia very wide there. Gathers it back up.
Oh, and he gets real loose into turn 7. And you see Brett Moffitt will drive away from his next victim, Tyler Ankrum, there for Brett Moffitt, the one car, to see if he can get up there and pass him as well.
What do you think? With just a few laps remaining, can he pick? Oh,
Whoa!
man! Contact there, or was there? The 41 of Sam Mayer goes wide. And he gets back on. Whoa! Almost contacts a 12 of Burton and then nearly loses it again.
I think we're watching a dirt track, actually, here. This isn't Watkins Glen. Hey, look at that. Brett Moffitt gets a great run of all that happening from him around the outside of Tyler Ankrum.
Here he comes. You know, and the team of the 30 bunch told Dylan that they didn't blow the motor, but that's a lot of speedy dry down there, and usually don't put that down for anything but oil, Parker.
Exactly. I think that there was a little bit more to that story than just overheating, looking at the smoke that came out of the back of that race car.
Whew. Okay, Brett Moffitt says, all right, what's going to happen with young Sam Mayer now? He's going to go to this side of him, you see back there. Meanwhile, battle for second, it's still Wallace and Heckert.
Oh, and Scott Heckert broke so late there. He's so good under the brakes. It's what makes him so fast in these road courses. But he just could not hold off Bubba Wallace down into turn 6, and now Bubba gets a great run out of turn 7. It looks like Scott's just struggling a little bit with the rear end on that race car.
There's the gap from Rogers back to Wallace, who does the protection line right there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of blocking, and if he can get a run out of here into the S's, he should be able to hold off Scott down the backstretch towards the inner loop.
This is second on back. Wallace, Heckert, then Davis, Burton.
Wow, I was just going to say Brett Moffitt ate out a huge chunk out of the lead there that Harrison Burton had going into the S's really quickly. I mean, he is flying in that one car right now.
Talked about the bad handling of the 12, and if the 1 is handling that much better, you're going to see that gap shrink that quick.
Exactly, and you know, both those cars were really fast in the wet practice we had. Harrison Burton was fast as well. Felt like at times he was one of the fastest cars out there. I just don't think that car has been able to translate the speed in the dry here during the race.
Burton is going to race a truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports in a couple of weeks at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So this is his warm-up for that. But he hopes his truck handles a little bit better than the 12 car today.
I think so too. Yeah, he's doing a good job. If he really has that loose of a race car to be able to hang up there inside the top 10 and fringe in the top 5, I think he's doing a really great job with that car. And you know, that's valuable experience for a young man like himself, to have a car that's a little bit ill handling on a road course. Sometimes you can learn more in that situation about how to drive these road courses because you're having to make up for a car that just doesn't have the speed.
You saw it from the flag stand. 5 to go. Davis is going to lose a position to Moffitt.
I don't think anyone's safe from Brett Moffitt.
I'm telling you. And Rogers just has to be running his heart out right now to try to get as far away from this group, especially Moffitt, as he can.
Well, the thing is, I don't think the team would be telling Rogers that Moffitt's coming this fast because he has such a lead. But, oh, wow, there's Harrison Burton, Spencer Davis banging doors through the inner loop.
Short tracking through the bus stop. Contact, and now Burton's going to go around.
Oh.
Almost. And we stay green.
It is a half spin, and, you know, it's just such a tough place to be side by side, and I think both those drivers were racing really hard there in a place that's, as I said, it's easier single file, almost have to be single file at times, and as you bounce over those curves, which you have to do to be fast, you lose grip. And there's Jeff Burton, Harrison's dad, one of our co-workers.
Going, I didn't like how this turned out.
Yeah,
It's a lot of contact.
It's a lot of contact, but I hate to put blame on anyone because, you know, Harrison was making the move on the inside. Spencer's on the outside, and the two just met each other in the middle, being that they're bouncing around on the curbs like that. Great move by Sam Mayer.
Yeah, barely made it through in the 41.
I hate to put any blame on either of them other than just hard racing there.
So back up front, this is the battle for second because Moffitt is now third. Bubba Wallace sees him in his mirror. Here comes a passing opportunity. Is he going to do it? He's going to take a peek. No.
That would have been late if he did. We would have seen a Harrison Burton, Spencer Davis situation once again if he had made that move.
Wouldn't be the first time we saw a late pass today. Or a late attempt.
A late attempt. That's a better word for it. Oh, look at him using that higher line in the carousel, trying to get a run, almost diving it a little bit to get a run on the 27 of Bubba Wallace. And that's something, you know, before this place got repaved, you would do that all the time. And now the line is really right on the bottom. Ooh, Bubba got a little loose there down in turn 6 on the brakes.
I'm telling you, they are not that far behind Rogers. Rogers better hope that Moffitt doesn't get by Wallace.
Yeah, I think Rogers has not gotten as far away as I thought he would have at this point. Being a kind of blitzed away from the field early, this is an incredible run by Brett Moffitt as he makes the move.
He will take second from Bubba Wallace. Dylan.
It's been a nice recovery for Brett Moffitt and this Hattori Racing team. Let's take a look at the gentleman here with the K&N Koji names written on the back of their helmet. The sponsor of this Brett Moffitt entry is Gunma Toyopet, which is an automotive dealership in Japan, which of course is where team owner Shiggy Hattori is from. Those two gentlemen, Ken and Koji, are mechanics at the Gunma Toyopet dealership, and they're pitting Brett's car this afternoon and having a good run so far as he's rebounded from that contact earlier in the race.
That's so cool.
It is, and it's a great point by Dylan. This is something that Shiggy Hattori does all the time with the K&N series. He actually brings a lot of young men and women over from Japan, and he does it with his truck team as well, and allows them to join the pit crews for a day or work in the race shop and really learn the trade of working on these race cars and get to experience racing firsthand over in America. So it's an awesome program that he runs, and really cool to see them having a day where I feel like they're about to contend for this win.
Speaking of his truck team, who's his driver, Parker?
That would be Brett Moffitt.
Who's his crew chief?
That would be
Scott Zipadelli.
And
And they're both doing this today and running down the leader, Will Rogers, late in the race. They've already had a terrific season in the truck series. 3 wins, 4 additional top 5s. And remember, they left Gateway thinking that they weren't even going to have a race the next week without sponsorship. But it came together, and the team has stayed together and stayed fast. Again, a warm-up for them going to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park later on. But they might just win the race today if they can catch that 7 car.
I think he's got a real chance at winning it here as we go 2 laps to go. He's gaining quickly on Will Rogers. Look at him wringing the neck of that race car right now, dropping the tires in the grass, doing everything he can to get speed out of it to try and catch Will Rogers.
Rogers is in the same race car in which he has won the last 4 K&N Pro Series races on road courses. It's a good one, but is it as good as this one? Even all beat up.
Wow, you know, and the thing is, Will he's got enough of a lead. He's going to take a mistake.
I hear tires.
Enough of a lead. He's going to take a mistake.
I hear tires. Yeah.
There it is.
Out of the final turn, coming to the white flag. Rogers makes a mistake, and here comes Moffitt.
Side by side, can he outbrake him into turn 1?
He's got enough brake left, and Moffitt is going to clear. Can Rogers fight back?
Oh, he's right on his tail right now. Will Rogers has to stay as close as he can to the S's if he wants to have an attempt down the inner loop at outbraking Brett Moffitt.
But Moffitt is pulling away. It doesn't look like Rogers is going to get a chance here. Brett Moffitt has cleared the 7, and now the advantage is about 6 car lengths.
And this is the place that Will Rogers is going to have to get close. He needs, if he couldn't do it in the S's, he's got to do it through the inner loop, then be right on his tail out of the carousel. As Brett Moffitt goes a little wide there, that might be his preferred line doing that diamond. He's got to get, oh, he gets a little loose. I don't know if he's going to get the run because 6 would be probably one of his last passing zones.
6 is the left-hander before the final corner where Rogers made the mistake on the right-hander on the last lap. Coming to the final 2 corners, Brett Moffitt smooth through 6, going down to 7. Last-ditch effort for Rogers. He's not there, Parker.
Not at all. This is all Brett Moffitt's to the end.
Brett Moffitt comes from the back of the field at least 2 times today and is going to win at Watkins Glen International. What
Wow.
a race. Incredible.
That was incredible. It was awesome. What a drive by Brett Moffitt and that whole Shiggy Hattori team to come from the back, as he said, basically twice in this race. And he passed so many of those cars under green in that last run. That was just amazing to watch. He really had the field covered speed-wise.
And still had brakes at the end, Parker, to make those big passes, because you got to be able to stop the car and take advantage of that.
And they took tape off the front end there when they had the overheating issue and getting the grass all over the car. So he probably didn't even have the best aerodynamics aside from just the damage he has there on the left front. So that was just an incredible drive.
I'm telling you, that car is still going to look really pretty in Victory Lane when we come back to Watkins Glen. K&N Pro Series Racing on NBCSN is brought to you by K&N High Flow Air Filters and Air Intake Systems, because everyone loves that fast car smell. Nothing to filter here. These fans saw a fantastic event today with lots of surprises and lots of young drivers learning Watkins Glen. Let's go down to Dylan.
What a drive for the driver from Grimes, Iowa. Dethroning the K&N Road Course King and Will Rogers. It's Brett Moffitt in Victory Lane. Man, the day you guys had to start with all the damage on the front end, to drive back through the field like that and then beat the guy who has been unbeatable for the last few road course races. How did you do that?
Honestly, everyone at HRE and Gunma Toyo Pet just gave me an awesome Toyota Camry to drive. It really makes my job easy. So it's all on them. It was unfortunate we had to start in the back, got a little bit of damage, but man, this thing was super fast and just easy to drive, and I love Watkins Glen. There's always a great crowd here. I can't thank the fans enough for coming out and everyone who supports this series.
You guys had a little bit of a rough go. This car did last year with Ryan Truex in the seat. How good does it feel to get the team some redemption by getting it in Victory Lane today?
Yeah, I mean, Gunma Toyo Pet's been loyal to this team, and unfortunately they had that incident last year, and they were all bummed because he had a really good car last year. And I was kind of bummed early in the race because I thought it was going to end up the same way, but we were able to hold on, and that was just awesome. Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Well, it was quite a drive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brett Moffitt in Victory Lane at Watkins Glen.
Dave, I think I know the secret.
It is?
It's the mustache. That's what got him the win. You see Scott Heckert there saying high five as well, and what a drive. That was impressive.
Here are the results. Heckert was third, you see. We'll talk to him as well as Will Rogers. Nice run for Spencer Davis in fourth, and that youngster, the 15-year-old from Franklin, Wisconsin, Sam Mayer, finishes fifth today.
And you see Tyler Dimple back there in 15th. That damage early in the race, I think it really hurt him. Ends up all the way back to 15th.
Eric Jones and Noah Gregson, 19th and 20th from a penalty they never should have been involved in. Let's talk to second place. Here's Dylan.
Will Rogers comes home in the second spot today. All good things must come to an end, unfortunately, at some point or the other. What was the difference there for you at the end there when Brett was able to get by you?
Yeah, we were really hoping for that trifecta, sweep the road courses this year and then add the fifth win to it. Just didn't happen for us today, but everybody at Jefferson Pitts Racing did a great job. Kelly Benefit Strategies, a huge thank you to them. Dryden Performance Products, couldn't do without any of them, but Brett did a really great job. He had a really fast car today. I think into the second to last corner there, Spotter was saying, get all you can get, he's coming. So I tried to push it about 5 feet too deep into the braking zone, and it didn't work, didn't stick, it got a little loose. But it's all good, I saved it, and we finished second, so got to be happy about that one. Here at Watkins Glen, very thankful to be here.
He did a great job, nonetheless. Will Rogers, second place.
And that is so easy to do, Dave, because that corner entices you to drive in deeper, but when you do, exactly what happened to Will Rogers is what happens. It just really loses the rear end of the race car.
And with Ankrum finishing 7th and Dipple 15th, 8 points added to the championship lead for Tyler Ankrum. Dylan?
Third place for Scott Heckert. He rounds out our podium. Well, it didn't look like you were going to get to the podium there the last lap, but was able to kind of carve your way through the mess there. Just take us through that last lap from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we had a little better car than the 27. And I made a mistake coming up the uphill. There was all that speedy dry down. And
take us through that last lap from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we had a little better car than the 27. I made a mistake coming up the uphill. There was all that speedy dry down and got really free in it. You got to run. It got close to me. So I was just determined to get back to that third spot. I mean, they deserve it over at Marsh Racing, Whalen Engineering. They do so much for us, and Top Rung is another great partner. I was determined to try to get the top three. I wish we could have gotten the win, just not quite the speed.
Well, he did a good job nonetheless. That is Scott Heckert, third place.
And I know how badly he wanted to win this race. I know he gets far opportunities right now in the NASCAR series, so he really wanted to make a big splash, but a good run for Scott Heckert.
Be sure to tune in to NBCSN for all of your NASCAR Touring Series action. You see the Modifieds are up next. Well, that's it for the 11th race of the 2018 season, the K&N Pro Series East. And as you would always expect at Watkins Glen International, it was an adventure. Believe it or not, that was the car that ended up in victory lane. Little trouble for the 30 of Tristan Van Wieringen today. And even the champ had troubles. But the day belonged to Brett Moffitt in the one car, spinning, pitting for an overheated car. But he ends up in victory lane, and you saw it right here. Thanks for joining us.